It's a little nippy in here. Jesus Christ. They got the AC on full blast.
All right, we good to go? Looks like we're live streaming on YouTube.
Yes, we are. We are good to go. I feel like we need some like music. Some like intro music.
We need
Sooner or later.
We need to pay up for that one. So step by step, we just crossed the 21 subscriber threshold mark. So step by step.
Yes, sir. All right. Let me just make sure this is good. That's done. And that's done. All right, I got my notes up. Good to go. All right. Welcome everybody. Episode 14? 13?
14. Let's go.
14. There you go. This is the Risk Reward Show brought to you by Risk Reward Media. I am your co-host, Derrick, aka Mr. Reward, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host,
Cris Mercado, aka Mr. Risk, and sometimes at night, Mr. Risque.
Cool. So today we are going to be talking about a very, very interesting topic. I think this is something that a lot of people on our, social media go through, as well as us. So I'm really excited to hear your take on this, but we're going to be talking about code switching. The reason why we are talking about this is, Cris, we, when we spoke, when I first mentioned this to you, the person who I brought it up to the first time, they was like, what's code switching? I was like, ooh, like, you don't know. So, with that being said, I do think there are a lot of people who go through this, but also there is a bigger amount of people who don't even know about what code switching is. So hopefully today we'll kind of get to the bottom of it, as well as help everybody find the upside in it. But before we get there, we always started with our weekly rewind. And this week we are going to be talking about, what happened on Saturday Night Live, aka Mr. Musk on, Doge. The Doge father was he was the host of Saturday Night Live. Me personally, I never really watched Saturday Night Live, but I'm pretty sure this was like their highest ratings ever, because nobody really looks for Saturday Night Live, but having him there, I think, brought a lot of eyes there, and the main reason was because of Dogecoin. So Cris, I know you feel a certain way about Dogecoin, so I'll let you, kind of start this one off.
Dogecoin was a joke. And I'm kind of tight that folks actually made money off of a joke. It goes against every sound investment principle. Even like if you went to risky, but still somewhat sound investment principles, it goes against that logic. Except for, I see it as, if someone wanted to treat that as a lottery ticket, I can understand it. But even then, there's like an infrastructure behind the lottery system. Dogecoin did not. And so for me, what really it's not just me, but other folks who invest and manage money professionally, they got really mad that folks like Elon or Mark Cuban, Chamath, right, would egg on people in Doge and also like in Wall Street bets, like that whole saga. And what ends up happening is this distortion in markets, and also more importantly, like people's behavior, right? And you'll see the wins, but there's also a bunch of folks who lost out on money because they may have come in after it got hyped up, and then you saw the plummeting of Doge by like, I don't know, like 35% after SNL. And so folks who ended up buying near the top, like felt that pain on the way down. But again, on the way down or up, it's based on like a made up. I mean, all the crypto coins are made up, but this one was a joke that was made up, and that just I find really insulting for folks who kind of really were like more responsible.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. And this is, if you want to say that, Chris, is you being a sore loser, fine. I'll take that.
Not at all. I just want to say something quick. So I'm opening up my Coinbase, and what they say about Dogecoin cracks me up. They say Dogecoin is a cryptocurrency that was created as a joke. Its name is a reference to a popular meme. It shares many features with Litecoin. However, unlike Litecoin, there is no hard cap on the number of Dogecoins that can be produced. And like that's it. First question for you. Did you see the episode though for Saturday Night Live or no?
No.
Okay.
Folks don't know is that I don't have a TV in my current situation.
All right, cool. So I won't spend too much time on like the episode itself, but it was Elon. I'm happy that he had a chance, like you saw, like the fun side of him. There were a few sketches that he did that were actually pretty funny. There was one called General Z Hospital, and that sketch felt very, very cringy because it's like the whole crew, like the whole cast, they were trying to just use slang and stuff like that. I feel like if it was done with like a very a different cast, it would have been much more funnier. But just to have them do it is like no one was really laughing, so it was just like ugh. But going back to what you said about Dogecoin itself, so with full disclosure, I did own Dogecoin. I owned it around probably like I want to say like 30 cents, and then I owned some before when it was like probably like 1 cent. But I know I sold off some when it hit 30, and then I sold off not all of it, but most of it when it hit like 71 cents. So like most of the people that are invested in like Doge, I was waiting for the prices to go up, but literally as the episode kept going, the prices just went down, down, and down and down. So I'm like, damn. Me, myself, I'm happy that I got rid of my stuff early because I was like 71 cents. That's a good enough for me, and I just didn't get greedy. So I was happy to kind of get that, the profit back. But I do feel like with Doge and like, Wall Street bets and stuff like that, this is people's first intro to like trading. And I know before we had a talk on investing versus trading and like what you should be doing. And I think a lot of people are getting confused with what this is. This is not an investment when it comes to Dogecoin. There are other cryptocurrencies out there that are an investment. Ethereum hit 4,000 today. That's it. That's an investment. Yeah. And I've been in like very, very early. So that's an investment. Dogecoin, like Coinbase just said, like I feel like it also goes back to knowing what cryptos are. There's a finite amount and that's how it gains value. But with Dogecoin, you can make millions of Dogecoins, after, probably like a month or two, or I'm just not sure on like how often they create new coins and stuff like that. But there's no like finite amount of coins that can be made. Like it's always going to be more made. So when knowing how cryptos work, that should tell you that's your first sign of like, don't buy it. Me personally, I followed the news. I was more on like the trader side because I was like, hey, like there's news around this. Let's see if I can make like a quick profit, and I did. But for those who are thinking like, yes, I'm going to invest, I'm going to put the house on Doge. No, that's not the way to do it.
So that is a wonderful distinction, and it doesn't make me feel any better. But again, like I shouldn't care if you got money on the way up or if you got money on the way down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a move on kind of thing. But I really don't. I don't like it when people do it in stocks to pump it up.
Yeah.
So I want the fundamentals to work on its own, and of course, yes, I look at technicals too, um, like secondarily, but I look at it too. So I just want the markets to like play its role without. It's already crazy to having to deal with the markets in general. I don't
Mhm.
need gazillionaires to add fuel to the fire, either on the way up or on the way down. Like
Yeah.
that causes more chaos for
Yeah,
us.
and I feel like the fact that this space is not, it doesn't have like any regulation behind it. That's why people can say, I buy Doge, buy this, buy that. But I'm pretty sure if it were to like their own stocks, then they really can't say that. So until there's like some laws behind this cryptocurrency space, you're gonna have a bunch of people that are gonna be pumping money. And that's another thing I want everybody to just like know. Like this market is not regulated at all. So people can say put money into it, and then next thing you know, that you have a whale that will come in and just take it all out.
Yeah. So I forgot who said it, but somebody said that the rise of Doge is really a middle finger to the financial markets that have kept like working class, lower income folks like out.
Yeah.
So this is like the middle finger to them, and like I see that point as well. I it just in a time where like we were in a pandemic and you had these super rich folks sort of joking about it.
Yeah.
Um, I'm like, we're trying our best here just to like get past the pandemic and survive. And even myself, who is in a better situation than before the pandemic economically, like we're still worried about having to pay rent the next month or two. Um, so they of course they can just like laugh it off, but for us, it's not a joke.
This is
Like
life.
yeah, it's survival. Like we're trying to find ways to make money honestly, right? And we didn't have that access beforehand. And I'm not here to listen like, oh, they were self-made. Fuck that. That is not the case, right? No
Yeah.
one is self-made. And I did just curse, right?
And
But this is one of those where we're
there,
like,
there's no need to code switch right now.
yeah, this is one of those where like I'm like we work a lot with like folks who are lower income, folks who are underemployed, unemployed, and they had their hopes on a joke coin that was like publicized and like egged on by super rich folks who couldn't care less um, about the folks that we serve, right? So it just it didn't sit well with me. Those of y'all who made money off of it, I hope you're doing wise things. Um, you just know that it's tax season, so the IRS is getting their cut too, right? So make sure you pay your fair share as well. We'll get into that at the right move right now segment.
Yeah.
But that's my take on it, and yeah, like I just don't. I just want a little bit more responsible, both investing and trading, especially with these crazy markets that we're having right now.
Yeah. The market today is pretty bloody. Good time to buy though. Great time to buy.
I picked up a couple, but
Yeah.
I see the red, but I understand like that, right?
Mhm.
It's just, but there was no like Elon talking down the markets today,
Yeah,
right?
because he can't. Because if he does, then he'll get a heavy ass fine.
Exactly.
But in this crypto space, people can say whatever they want to do. And I guess for anybody who's an early person when it comes to putting their money into these like stocks and cryptos, just know that this space is not regulated. People can say whatever they want to do. Just be smart about it. Do like your research on like what coins are actually doing something, rather than these coins that people are just saying invest. Like that's not the way to go. So I do agree with you that it does go against what we've, like, I guess like the principles that we've built, that we've kind of studied and kind of learned. It goes against that, because I mean, for people to gain money from it, I'm happy for it. I'm happy if you were able to put in 1,000 and you got like, probably like if you put in 1,000, you probably got like 20,000 back or something like that. I'm happy that people got that, but don't think of this as like, this is how, when it comes to putting my money in, crypto, this is how it like always works, when it doesn't. So just be wise, be mindful, and don't put all of your money inside of Dogecoin.
Cool. So that's a good way to wrap up that segment. Yeah. And with my cursing, that's a great lead-in to our main topic, which is code switching in the workplace. And before you define it, Derrick, for everybody, we had put out some polls on IG, on LinkedIn, and last I checked, 100% of people reported that they code switched. So, and again, you had talked about the inspiration behind this being the main topic, but for the folks out there who may not fully grasp what code switching is, and we had shared a meme to describe what code switching is. Can you describe in words to folks out there what code switching is?
So I was doing some research on what code switching was, and the first definition that I found about it was when someone would have to kind of, switch between like English and Spanish. So I'm able to kind of talk, in English, but also kind of, refer that message in Spanish. So that was the first like definition of like code switching that I saw. But how I view code switching is when you're in an environment that, you are not, like, you can't be you can't be your authentic self, to where you kind of have to change how you look, how like you speak, what you do, what your like behavior is. And there are reasons why people do it. But we're really going to get into like the details of it in terms of like the risks as well as the rewards of it. But what I will say, and something that I said in the post for, I believe it was for LinkedIn, I feel like this is a skill that everybody should know how to do, because you're always going to be in some type of, a situation where it's, you have to kind of adapt to what you're going through or like who you're around. And it goes in, and like, you have to have that high, what's it called? That high EQ, and just know how to, maneuver around people. So, with that being said, I mean, for me, the reasons that I found out that why people code switch is to, one, achieve something, whether it be, whether it be through work, something outside of work. I mean, code switching doesn't always happen at work too. Just to let that be known too. Like, you can be anywhere, and have to just like code switch. But, and another reason that I found that I didn't like, it just sounded weird, but it says to adapt to the dominant culture. Like, how does that make you feel? Like, when you hear that, adapt to the dominant culture.
So this is part of like how I look at it. So it's hard to hit home on a formal definition of this.
Yeah.
So for me, it is all about that adapting. And I go back to the ABCs of psychology. So you adapt your affect or your emotions, your behaviors, and your thinking, your cognition, to, well, you referred to it as a dominant culture. But for me, it's you adapt your affect, your behavior, and cognition to a setting where you have to like perform. And for me, going to work for a company is in large part a performance. Like, you have to perform at the duties, right? But there's also a performance in being ingrained in that company's culture. And there are benefits that we'll talk about for doing that. There's also some risks for doing that. but there's also risks for not doing that.
Yeah.
So that to me is it's adaptation, but it's also like assimilating into what you call the dominant culture. So but when you refer to it as the dominant culture, that automatically makes you inferior, which I don't like. For me, it is a powerful thing to be able to code switch, and we'll come up with examples in a little bit. So I don't like using the dominant culture aspect. What I like kind of thinking about is I'm performing at a place and I want to perform the best way that I can, and this might involve adapting my behaviors and my thinking and my feelings at that place.
That's a good way to put it, as a performance. I've never thought about it like that, but now that I'm thinking about all the times I had to code switch, it's like I'm putting on, like, I don't want to say I'm putting on like an act, but you have to perform a certain way in order to, kind of get the job done.
That's exactly it. So that's my take on it. So I want you to talk about like the positives in code switching. Like why should someone code switch in the workplace?
So, I mean, for me, like I said, I kind of started off saying that this is a great skill to have, just because you're able to, adapt to different situations at work. The first example that comes to mind is I've been in plenty of workplaces where I was the only, person of color there. So I can't talk like how I talk because they might not get my slang. They may not get how like I act and stuff like that. So what I would do is just really just like sit back, see how everybody is reacting, what they, what they would laugh at, respond to, how they would talk, how they would just move, how they would dress. So for me, it would just, like, one example that I can give is when it comes to like how you dress. I think that's one of like the biggest ways that people can code switch. It was what's his name, Kevin Samuels. For anybody who knows like Kevin Samuels, he's a rising star on YouTube now. A lot of people don't agree with what he says, but he said something that like really, I was like, thank you for saying that, because it just made sense. But basically, what he says, when you first meet some, like, anyone, the first thing that should come to your mind is your A, B, C's, and D's. So the A would be your appearance, B would be your behavior, C is how do you communicate, and D is your digital footprint. When he kind of summed that up as like your personal brand, I was like, that makes sense. So when it comes to your appearance, I don't care where you go. If you put on a suit or if you put on any type of like, business casual wear, and you go anywhere, people will look at you different, regardless of what you do or anything. So that is a form of code switching there.
So do you remember when we were at Slack's headquarters, and I think we took a picture, and then I gave you a heads up. I was like, "Yo, next time, take the hat, the backwards hat."
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I was very comfortable there. I was around people that showed me love for like how I was. But then you said, hey, like, next time you take a picture, take off the hat. I was like, ooh, thank you for that. Because who's viewing now, that's like a different audience now. Now, when it comes to who's viewing that picture, I have no clue. And when they first see me, they're like, oh, why is he wearing his hat for? Why is he at Slack wearing like a hat? So they might have their own, I guess, like, thoughts of me and whatever. But just going back to what I was saying in terms of like code switching and the rewards behind it. But when you're in a new place, like for me, you have to know where you are, how to respond to people, how you should behave. There is a certain way to behave at work. You can't act like it's like your house and stuff like that, to where you're just, cursing and stuff. You have to have some type of, what's the word? I guess like some type of, not like restriction, but you have to know what to say and when to unsay it. But I mean, for me, it really goes to that in terms of having that skill in like your back pocket, and in like the workplace, it really does work. And outside of work, it helps too. There's times where I've been in places where I shouldn't have been, in terms of like, meeting new friends and like new people. And based off my, just based off me being me, I was the only Black person there. But I was able to kind of, move in a way that kind of fit with like this group. And from out of that, you don't know like what could come your way. I mean, out of like any type of convo, a new job could, just like pop out. There was literally a time where, I want to say, for like a good 4 years, I never applied for any job. It was just me just talking to people. I was able to, just work my way from this person to that person. And it all came from me being able to kind of adapt to where I was. I was working in a biotech. I know nothing about biotech, but being able to kind of go into that world, see how they operate, and then get a job from it, I was happy.
That makes a lot of sense. So I will get into sort of like the risks as to like when you code switch and when you don't code switch. So for me, if you do it, others might look at you as a sellout, especially if those others aren't aware of like the unwritten corporate rules and what a corporate life is like, and the politics that comes with going in a corporate space. So others, folks you may have grown up with, they might look at you as a sellout, right? Because you're acting and talking different, you're looking different. But the big risk to doing it is, like, it reminds me of a refrain we've heard so often, although in different contexts. But when folks of color say that they're exhausted, right? Part of it is because folks of color have had to adapt their behaviors and code switch to the expectations of another for so long. And it takes so much energy, the mental resources, emotional resources, to change based on each setting or each time you have to perform. There, like, if you have to do that over and over again, it really gets exhausting. So when folks of color say that they're exhausted or it's exhausting, this is part of it. So just know that when we feel like we're forced to adapt our behaviors in code switch, there's so much taken out of us in doing so. And from a straight like energy and capacity and cognitive bandwidth, emotional bandwidth perspective. So that's for me the big risk in doing it. But I think that there are bigger risks for not doing it. So if you don't code switch, then you run the risk of being perceived by your colleagues as not exhibiting the executive presence that's needed to thrive at a corporation. I think of this a lot for myself. So I have certain platforms where I am my silly self, my funny self, my aspiring content creator self. And that's not going to carry the same level of executive presence as me being the immigrant rights advocate and speaking with presidential candidates, legislators, going down to DC. That's where I turn it on 100%. If I have a meeting with, certain business leaders, when we went to, all the headquarters and met with executives, like, you'll see my executive presence. When I have to pitch my company for, some sort of competition, right? You'll see my executive presence. But outside of that, if you catch me on these episodes, you'll see parts of me that aren't the executive me. And I don't know if that affects the prospects of my company being able to secure corporate contracts. But I do know that it's a risk that I'm mildly okay in taking. So I know that that's figured in, and I hope that someone gets to know the impact of my work enough where the silliness and the more content creation angle of how I share things like I did today might be overlooked for, you know what, this person can really help our corporation, can really help our company, because I truly think I can do that with literally almost any company. I have the skill set to adapt to that and learn quickly. Um, there's also another risk if you don't code switch. So if you don't code switch, some of your views might come across as like very raw and might create conflict and divisiveness that we had talked about in last week's episode related to, political discourse at work. And if you are someone who like refuses to code switch, I'm going to assume that you're going to be pretty open about sharing your most authentic personal views, and not everybody in your workplace is going to agree, and that might cause friction, and you don't know how that can blow up. So that's the risks of not doing it. So for me, and as substantiated by the polls that we've put out, people do code switch. They feel like it's a necessary tool to advance, and I'm not going to knock them for it. I'm not going to knock myself for doing it. I'm not going to knock you, our audience, our 21 plus subscribers who will rate and review and comment on this episode and other episodes. I'm not going to knock y'all for code switching. Again, like I was advocating for folks who are struggling to make it. We need to do all that we can so that we're better off in the coming months and years. And if that means adapting a little bit, I think it's great. I think one big point is code switching does not mean that you are taking away parts of yourself. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think you are adding different dimensions of yourself and showing that those sides to employers, potential corporate partners, other business leaders, rising leaders who are your peers. So I think you're adding like a different facet of yourself, different facets of yourself. And that makes you a more well-rounded person. And I want that out of people.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to look at it, because I feel like people do feel like they may lose a piece of themselves if they have to kind of adapt. But I agree with you 110% that the fact that I'm able to kind of go into another community or any other place in any other workplace and kind of walk that walk and talk that talk, that kind of brings like another level of Derrick out, because I'm able to, yes, on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm able to kind of shoot just to kind of, shoot the shits with you in terms of like sports and stuff like that. But when it comes to work, like I know exactly how to speak and to talk and to actually get things done. Something you said earlier that just made me think of something, but emails. People can code switch in emails too. And I've done that plenty of times, because there's times when I get emails and I'm like, I just said this just now, but you're going to ask me the same damn question. But now you can't say that. You have to say it in
as per last email.
As per my last email. I feel like whenever I see that, I'm like, damn, like they want to say something else. But that is the proper way to say, look at the email that I just sent you, dummy. That is the proper way to actually say that.
So I will give a very personal account of how valuable code switching has been for me. So for context, a lot of my work centered around social impact has been with Black and Latino Latina folks, and I am Asian, right?
You
So
don't say.
this really stems from my coming to this country as an immigrant, but where I settled was a predominantly Black neighborhood. So myself as an Asian immigrant, I had to code switch to fit in to my neighborhood. Part of that is looking around and seeing how people talked. And growing up in Jamaica, Queens, and Queens in general, one of the like frontier neighborhoods for hip hop, I started to sort of adopt the like hip hop culture in various aspects, whether it's sort of like attitude, but also in speech. So I remember as a kid figuring out like, well, why is birthday, why does it have an F sometimes in hip hop, right? So there would be times where I would say it with an F, because I sort of adopted that part of the culture that I was in. And I was a minority into, quote, the dominant culture of my neighborhood, which is predominantly Black. So for me to literally survive, right, I had to make those changes and adapt my behaviors. So it could have been wearing cross colors and baggy pants and wearing Karl Kani's, right? That was one way that I survived. And the weird part is I would have to go to school 2 towns away, which was predominantly Asian and white. So I had to try to code switch again in those settings. And this was like a daily thing, junior high and high school. And I never felt like I fit in. And the more I did it, the more I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take the best parts of this and be myself. I didn't see the value of this until I went to City College and I saw, you know what, hey, most of my classmates are actually Black and Latino, more like the neighborhood I grew up in than the neighborhoods I went to school in. So I got a chance to sort of get along with people more and being able to learn from them and be open to learning from other cultures. So fast forward to work that takes me, whether it's like Trio Upward Bound, where I'm helping Black and Latino folks, hundreds, like get on to college and win scholarships. The reason I can sort of go so deep on their application processes is because I know how they talked, how they lived, how they behaved, how they had to adapt, how they had to code switch themselves. So when I'm coaching them through applications and essays, like there was some code switching there, but I knew enough about how they lived because I lived it too, where we kept the authenticity to make them stand out. And then in the most recent work with workforce development, it's so similar. Like they have to code switch for interviews, right? And some of the job applications. So how do we do that tactically while also reinforcing there's goodness in how they grew up and why they behaved a certain way? It's just because it's different doesn't mean it's deficient, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think code switching for me, having to do that early on, it's not like I had a label for it growing up. I think it served me well, but it's also served the people I served well, because I was able to practice that and relate to it on a very personal level.
That's awesome. Something I just want to say before we kind of switch topics. For those who are, you know, new to the corporate world or new to like getting like your first job or something like that, you're going to have to code switch in some shape or form. But what I will say is to kind of practice that emotional in the EQ. What I would say is what has worked for me is whenever I get to a new place, I'm always the quiet person. I'm literally observing. I'm always listening to what people are, saying, what like they're talking about, because you want to kind of see what's being said, what's being done. You want to see what's being done. So you want to just sit back and, just watch. I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, like I'm new here. Like I just want to act, but take your time. And another thing I will say is do like your research too. In terms of wherever you're going. I mean, with like your story, Cris, the fact that you're helping, students gain, going to college, like you understand where they came from because you lived through it and you've seen it. So if you're going to like a new, job or something like that, take the time to kind of learn about the company, learn who the people are within that company, look at people's LinkedIn profiles, read like where they are. If you can, look at their Twitter profiles and too. I think that'll be like a good place to kind of start, just to kind of do like your research. So when you do feel comfortable to kind of speak up, you're well informed and you know what the reaction might be in terms of like, hey, if I speak about, space, knowing that this, leader likes space, I'm, more willing to, I'm like, it's going to be better if I get that reaction from them. So the reaction they're like, oh, like you like space? You're like, sure. I mean, you probably don't like space as much, but the fact that you're able to kind of talk about it in a way like that'll get you to that next level. So it really goes to you just looking at your surroundings and listening to what everybody's saying.
Listen first.
Listen first. Is that a good way to wrap up code switching, Cris? Anything else you want to add to it?
It is. No, I think we hit on some important points.
All right, cool. So let's get to the right move right now.
Right move right now for me is enjoy all the public parks and schools that I, and of course, millions of taxpayers will be paying for. I am a little bit energized this weekend because I'm going to pay 5 figures in taxes again, which is a good sign business-wise and maybe a little bit investing-wise. So while overall I don't mind paying that much, it feels like I'm paying some people's salary with the amount of taxes, and I'm like, wow, that's a huge chunk. And I did a lot enough to pay it all at once. I like to take the pain once, not every 3 months. Yeah. So I'm just gonna eat this for one time. But my goodness, like, and when I think about folks who are undocumented, by the way, they pay taxes. Undocumented people pay taxes. And the amount of money undocumented folks put in to systems that they actually can't take advantage of, that is so unjust.
Yeah.
And I think about my friends in that struggle who are in the advocacy space, and all you hear are folks talking about, oh, illegals this, illegals that, pay your taxes. And I'm like, no, folks, undocumented folks pay a lot in taxes. So that's what I was reminded of when I saw the final papers at the sign off on. I was like, wow, that is a lot of money. But again, overall, the country needs it, especially after the pandemic. Cities and city and state governments are so in the red.
Yeah,
I'm for increasing taxes of the super rich, like Elon and some of you Dogecoin millionaires. Yeah,
coming for you.
Yeah. I hope the IRS comes for you, right? Enjoy your millions from a joke coin, and I hope the IRS comes in and takes some of that. But I'm not bitter. What's your right move right now?
It goes back to what we spoke about earlier. I really think that people should understand the difference between investing and trading. Um, for those who are new to trading and investing, Dogecoin should not be like your this is how you do it type thing. Like you really have to study what the market does. A book that I read is The Intelligent Investor. I'm still like reading it, but that's a book that kind of really helped me in terms of like thinking about how to invest rather than just trading. It's cool to trade. Do not get me wrong. It's cool to trade whenever you hear like a rumor and you're like, oh, let's put some money behind it, and then you see like that rumor go, and then your money goes up. That's fine, but that's not the way how to invest your money. So when it comes to crypto, like I said before, the space is not regulated. So when you hear people talking about investing it, do your research before you put money into anything. This is your money, not theirs. They will pull their like funds out ASAP, and it'll be billions of dollars that they can pull out. And when they pull out their billions, your few thousands will go to zero. So I want everybody to be very, very mindful in knowing the difference between investing and trading. I wish I knew the episode number, but we do have an episode that goes into detail about the difference between those two. So definitely take the time to look at all of the episodes that we do have, comment on all of them, but definitely don't put your money behind anything that you don't know of, as well as what you hear people are doing.
So, important lesson to close: keep your pull-out game strong when it comes to investing in crypto and trading in crypto, and maybe otherwise.
That's what's up. All right, so we're not gonna be doing Twitter Spaces, right? No.
Yeah, we'll do it for a few minutes.
Okay.
Nice follow-up. So again, thank you all for joining. Please subscribe, share, and comment. We love some of the comments that we got on code switching on IG, and I hope that you all share those same comments on the live episode, but also afterwards.
Yes, please do. And find us on Twitter Spaces. I'll put the link to we're going to use yours again, Cris.
I think you should start it off.
Okay. All right. So what I'll do is I'll post it out to our IG page and just have everybody join in through there. All right. See you guys on Twitter.